The night sky above Earth had always been full of mysteries, but on this evening, it was brighter than usual. People across the world looked upward in wonder as unfamiliar lights appeared among the stars. At first, some thought they were meteors. Others believed they were new satellites. But as the lights grew larger and moved in perfect formation, it became clear that these were not natural. Something extraordinary was arriving. Within hours, the news spread across every nation. Governments, scientists, and common people all watched the skies. Cameras focused on a fleet of ships descending slowly into Earth's orbit. Their designs were unlike anything ever seen before: smooth, shining, and immense. They did not look like the creations of human hands. They were not here by accident. Soon, one ship broke away from the group and positioned itself above the capital of the largest international alliance on Earth. A voice transmitted across all communication channels, translated instantly into every language. "We come as envoys of the Galactic Council," the voice announced. "You are now part of the greater order of the stars. Humanity will provide resources and follow the laws of the Council. This is the path of all new civilizations." The message was repeated calmly, but its meaning was firm. It was not an invitation. It was a declaration. The people of Earth listened in silence. Some were excited at the thought of joining life beyond their planet. Others felt uneasy. This was not how they imagined a meeting with advanced beings would begin. There was no introduction of friendship or exchange of ideas. Instead, it sounded like instructions, as though Earth had already been judged and placed into a role without choice. In the capital, leaders gathered in a great hall, the largest in their city. The atmosphere was heavy as screens displayed the alien ships above. The council envoys had sent representatives down to Earth. They arrived not in weapons but in tall, elegant forms that shimmered faintly in the sunlight. Their faces were calm, and their movements graceful. Yet there was something about their presence that made the air feel colder. The lead envoy, taller than the others, stepped forward. Its voice echoed clearly, though its mouth did not move. "The Council has studied your world," it said. "You are ready to join. In return for protection and knowledge, you will give what is required: metals, energy, labor. All member species accept this. You will do the same." For a long moment, there was no answer. The leaders exchanged glances. Many had expected an offer of partnership, but this was different. The council spoke not of sharing but of taking. The envoy seemed certain that humans would agree, as if no other response was possible. Outside the hall, crowds had gathered. People held their breath, waiting to hear what would be said. Some whispered hopes that humans would accept quickly, afraid of what might happen if they refused. Others clenched their fists, believing that no matter how advanced these visitors were, Earth should not bow so easily. At last, one leader rose from her seat. Her name was Myra, a woman known not for power but for her calm strength in difficult times. She looked at the envoys with steady eyes. "Your words are clear," Myra said, her voice carrying through the hall. "But humanity has its own way. We will listen, we will learn, and we will speak. What we cannot do is obey without choice. We will not give away our world simply because you demand it." The hall was silent, and even the envoy seemed surprised. Across Earth, the words were broadcast live. Billions of people heard them, and for the first time since the ships appeared, a wave of quiet pride spread among the listeners. The lead envoy tilted its head, as though it had not expected this answer. "Refusal is unusual," it said. "Few resist the council's path. Consider carefully. You may find the cost of defiance greater than you imagine." Myra did not look away. "We have lived with challenges since the beginning of our history," she replied. "We will face this one as well. If the council truly seeks peace, let there be respect. If the council seeks only obedience, then we cannot accept." The envoys did not argue further. Instead, They bowed slightly, though the gesture felt more like a warning than a sign of honor. Then, with graceful steps, they departed the hall. Soon after, their ships lifted back toward the sky. As the lights of the fleet pulled away into the distance, the people of Earth began to talk among themselves. Some felt fear, wondering what the council would do next. Others felt a strange excitement. For the first time, humanity had spoken as one, not in fear but in determination. That night, the skies above Earth were quiet again, but everyone knew that silence would not last. The envoys had come with demands, and humanity had refused. What would follow remained uncertain, yet something had changed. For the first time in history, humanity had looked at visitors from the stars and said a simple word, no. The morning after the envoys departed, Earth was alive with voices. Every channel, every device, every gathering carried the same question. What would the Galactic Council do now? Some were afraid that great punishment would soon fall from the sky. Others felt proud that humans had spoken with courage. In the capital, the great hall where Myra had spoken was still filled with tension. Leaders from every part of the world had gathered once more. Screens showed images of the alien ships waiting in orbit, silent but heavy with presence. The envoys had not left completely. They were watching. Myra sat quietly at the center of the hall, her hands folded. She knew that her words from the day before had traveled far beyond her voice. They were now the words of Earth. She did not regret them, yet she felt the weight of responsibility. Around her, others debated loudly. They are advanced beyond anything we know, one leader said. If we refuse them further, we invite disaster. Do you not see what they offered? Another replied firmly. It was not an offer. It was a demand. If we accept, we may never be free again. The hall echoed with arguments. Some pushed for caution, others for resistance. But beneath all the disagreement was a new truth. For the first time in history, humanity was speaking not as many nations but as one people facing a single test. As the debate grew sharper, a voice from the corner of the hall spoke up. It was Arun, a scientist who had long studied the stars. He was not a politician, yet his presence was respected. I believe the council does not know us, Arun said. They believe we are like other races they have encountered. They expect obedience, because they have always received it. But we are not the same. Our history is full of hardship, and we have learned to stand firm. If we give up our freedom now, we betray everything that brought us here. His words brought a quiet stillness to the room. Many nodded slowly. The fear did not vanish, but it shifted. The leaders began to see their choice not as a risk of survival, but as a question of identity. What did it mean to be human in the face of the unknown? At last, Myra rose. She did not speak loudly, yet the hall became silent at once. The council expects a single answer from us, she said. Then we shall give it. We will not submit. We will seek peace, we will seek friendship, but we will not surrender our choice. This is not only about resources or laws. This is about dignity. The decision was not taken lightly, but it was made. A message would be sent. Humanity's refusal would be clear, not with anger, not with threats, but with steady words that could not be misunderstood. Later that day, the message was prepared and broadcast across space toward the waiting fleet. Myra stood before the cameras, her face calm. To the Galactic Council, she began, we thank you for revealing to us that we are not alone in the universe. We thank you for showing us that life stretches beyond our world. But we cannot accept your demand. We cannot give our planet and our people into your hands. We will welcome knowledge. We will welcome exchange. But we will not obey simply because you insist. We are human, and we will choose our own path. Her words were simple, but they carried a strength that spread across the planet. People in cities and villages, in schools and homes, stopped to listen. Some felt tears, others felt pride. For generations, humanity had wondered how the first meeting with other civilizations would happen. Now they knew. It was not with fear, but with defiance wrapped in dignity. The message was received by the envoys. High above Earth, the alien fleet shimmered in the sunlight. For hours, there was no reply. The silence felt long, heavy, and endless. News channels replayed Myra's words again and again, while analysts speculated on what the council might do. As the sun set, the reply finally came. The same calm voice that had spoken the first day echoed once more. "Your refusal is recorded," it said. "The council does not take such answers lightly. You will see the results of your choice. Prepare yourselves." The words ended, and the fleet remained still. On Earth, fear spread quickly, yet beneath it there was also a strange unity. Across nations, people spoke to one another as though borders mattered less than before. Humanity was no longer divided by old disputes. They were united by a challenge greater than any in history. That night, Myra looked out from a balcony toward the stars. She knew danger was coming, yet she also knew something powerful had awakened among her people. For too long, humans had wondered if they were small in the vast universe. Now they knew the truth. They might be small, but they would not bow. And as the lights of the fleet glimmered in the distance, every person on Earth carried the same thought in their hearts. The future was uncertain, but their answer was clear. Days passed after the Council's warning, yet the alien fleet remained in orbit. They did not attack. They did not leave. They simply watched. This silence created unease across the world. People wondered what the Council was waiting for. Some believed the fleet was gathering strength. Others whispered that Earth had only a short time left before punishment would arrive. But instead of despair, something unexpected began to grow. People looked not only to their governments but also to one another. Old rivalries between nations seemed less important now. Borders felt smaller when compared to the vastness of space and the challenge above their skies. In cities, groups gathered to discuss what had happened. In schools, children asked questions their teachers struggled to answer. Why had the envoys believed humans would obey so easily? Why had every other species accepted without resistance? Parents explained as best they could. They said humanity was different. People had faced floods, storms, and famine. They had faced division and hardship. Through it all, they had learned to endure. Perhaps the Council had not expected such a history. Still, the question remained, what could Earth truly do if the Council decided to force its will? That was when the first rumors began to spread. Some said humanity had a secret fleet hidden far from the eyes of the public. Others claimed that deep beneath the oceans or high in mountain caverns, enormous machines had been built in silence, waiting for the right moment. At first, these were only whispers. Yet the more they spread, the more people began to wonder if there was truth in them. In a research station far from the busy cities, Arun studied the skies night after night. His telescope traced the movements of the Council ships. He noticed patterns, how they shifted slightly, how they tested positions. He wrote notes and shared them with Myra, who trusted his observations. "They do not yet understand us," Arun told her. "They watch because they are unsure. They believe they hold all the strength, but they hesitate. They want to know if we are truly as unprepared as they imagine." Myra nodded slowly. "And are we?" she asked. Arun smiled faintly but did not answer. He had heard the same rumors as everyone else. He had seen shadows move in the night sky where no satellite should be. He had studied signals that did not belong to the Council fleet. Something was there, though few dared to speak of it openly. Meanwhile, the people of Earth began to prepare in their own ways. Families stored food and supplies, not out of panic, but with steady determination. Engineers worked late in hidden workshops. Pilots trained quietly in places that looked abandoned from the outside. It was as if the whole planet had begun to move with a shared purpose. In the capital, Myra called a private meeting with a small group of trusted advisors. The room was dimly lit, and the sound of quiet machines filled the space. Arun was there, along with leaders from distant regions who had traveled in secret. "I have heard the whispers," Myra said. "I know many of you have as well. If there is truth in them, now is the time to speak it. Are we prepared for what may come?" For a long moment, no one replied. Then one of the leaders, an older man with silver hair, leaned forward. His voice was soft, but steady. "We are not helpless," he said. "For years, our nation set aside resources for a hidden project. Not all agreed, and not all were told, but the work continued. Humanity has built more than anyone outside the circle knows. The council believes we are weak, but they are mistaken." Myra listened closely. Arun's eyes widened, for even he had not been certain until now. "Then the rumors are true," Myra said. The man nodded. "Yes. Humanity has prepared. We did not know when we would need it, but we knew a day like this might come." The room grew quiet again as the meaning settled over them. They were not defenseless. They were not at the mercy of the council. They had a secret that might change everything. Still, Myra was cautious. "Strength alone will not win this," she said. "If we show it too early, the council may strike with greater force. If we show it too late, we may not have the chance. We must be wise. For now, let the people believe in the whispers. Hope is as important as power." Outside, life on Earth continued. Farmers tended their fields, workers carried out their duties, and children played beneath the blue sky. Yet everyone felt the weight of the ships above. The silence of the fleet was a shadow over their lives, but beneath that shadow, a fire of unity burned stronger each day. At night, as Arun returned to his telescope, he gazed at the stars. Among them, he thought he saw movement, massive shapes drifting near the far side of the moon. He could not be sure, but his heart told him it was real. The rumors were not only rumors. Something was waiting, silent and patient. And when the time came, the truth would be revealed. The Galactic Council's fleet drifted in the skies above Earth like a chain of silver clouds. Weeks had passed since Myra's firm refusal, yet the envoys had not returned. Their silence felt heavier than words. Across the planet, people waited, always looking upward, wondering when the next step would come. Then, without warning, the council sent its scouts closer. Sleek vessels descended into low orbit, shining like knives against the blue sky. Their presence was not gentle. They did not fire, but their movements carried the weight of intimidation. It was a show of strength, a reminder of what the council could do. News channels broadcast the sight worldwide. Citizens gathered on rooftops and in open fields, pointing at the trails of light. For many, fear returned. For others, a quiet resolve grew stronger. Humanity had refused once. They could not retreat now. In a hidden station deep in the mountains, Myra stood with Arun and a small group of advisors. They watched the council's scouts on large screens. Their faces showed no panic, only concentration. "They want to test us," Arun said. "They are pushing closer to see if we will tremble." Myra placed her hands behind her back. "Then we must show them that we will not." Even as she spoke, alarms rang softly within the station. A technician looked up from her console with wide eyes. "Movement detected," she said. "Not from the council fleet. From the far side of the moon." The room grew still. Myra and Arun exchanged a glance. Everyone leaned closer to the screens as new images appeared. At first, the shapes were faint, hidden in the shadows of the lunar surface. But as the cameras adjusted, details emerged. They were enormous. Slowly, one of the great vessels drifted into the light, its surface dark and strong, lined with towers of steel and arcs of energy. Then another appeared beside it, and another. Each was larger than the Council's scouts, larger even than most of their capital ships. They moved with steady purpose, silent yet undeniable. Gasps filled the room. Arun whispered the word that was already forming in every mind. Dreadnoughts. For decades, humanity had whispered about secret projects, about hidden strength waiting for the right moment. Now, the truth stood revealed. The dreadnoughts were real. Across Earth, telescopes and cameras began to capture the sight. The images spread within minutes. Billions of people saw them, giant human-made ships rising from the moon's shadow like guardians long asleep. Children cheered, families embraced, and strangers clasped hands in awe. The Council scouts halted at once. Their sensors locked on the new arrivals, and their formations shifted uneasily. This was not what they had expected. The Council believed Earth was fragile and unprepared. They had not imagined such creations could exist on this young world. In orbit, the silence was broken only by the hum of engines and the faint glow of energy lines across the dreadnoughts' hulls. They did not fire, they did not threaten. They simply held their ground, facing the alien fleet with quiet strength. Back in the station, Myra's heart swelled with pride. For years, our people worked in secret, she said. Not to conquer, but to be ready. Now the Council sees that we are not helpless. Arun nodded, his eyes fixed on the great vessels. They are not only machines, he said. They are a message. They tell the universe that humans will never bow. On Earth, celebrations began. Music filled the streets in some places, while in others, people prayed or lit candles of thanks. Hope, which had flickered uncertainly for weeks, now burned bright. The sight of the dreadnoughts gave humanity something it had never truly felt before: confidence against the unknown. Meanwhile, the Council ships pulled back slightly. Their commanders spoke among themselves, trying to understand. How had a young race built such power without being noticed? How had they kept it hidden even from the Council's eyes? The answer was unsettling. Humanity had prepared in silence, and the Council had underestimated them. The scouts sent one last warning broadcast to Earth. You reveal your hidden weapons. Know that the Council will not be deceived by displays of strength. You cannot resist forever. Myra chose not to respond with anger. Instead, she released a simple statement for all to hear. These are not weapons of conquest. They are guardians of our choice. We did not build them to threaten. We built them so that no one could take away our freedom. Her words spread alongside the images of the dreadnoughts. The message was clear. Humanity was not looking for war, but they would not surrender. As night fell, the skies above Earth glowed with the light of two fleets facing one another. On one side, the Galactic Council with its centuries of power. On the other, humanity with its newly revealed guardians. Between them stretched a silence that spoke louder than any battle. In that silence, something shifted. The universe had thought of humans as a small race on a single planet. But now, for the first time, they were seen as something more. They were no longer simply newcomers. They were a people who had prepared, who had dared to say no, and who now stood ready beneath the watch of their dreadnoughts. The first sight of them would never be forgotten. The night sky above Earth was no longer peaceful. Two fleets faced one another in silence, one belonging to the Galactic Council and the other to humanity. Between them stretched a quiet line of space, heavy with tension. The Council's ships glittered like polished glass, sleek and cold. The human dreadnoughts, dark and vast, looked like mountains drifting among the stars. Across Earth, people could see the fleets with their own eyes, even without telescopes. Bright specks moved slowly across the heavens, reminders that history was unfolding above their heads. Crowds gathered in fields, on rooftops, and near oceans, staring upward as if the sky had become a stage. In the command station beneath the mountains, Myra stood with her advisors. Screens displayed every detail of the fleets, the council's steady formations, the slow, calm stance of the dreadnoughts. Arun leaned close to his console, his eyes tracing numbers and signals. "They are waiting for us to make the first move," he said. Myra nodded. "And we will not. The dreadnoughts will hold their ground. No threats, no aggression. We are here to show resolve, not to start a fight." Outside the council's fleet, messages pulsed back and forth between commanders. They could not understand how Earth had built ships so powerful without notice. Some argued that the dreadnoughts were a bluff, machines too heavy to move or too unfinished to fight. Others warned that the humans had already shown what made them dangerous: patience, unity, and the courage to say no. On Earth, the people watched day after day as the standoff continued. There was no fighting, no sound of war. Instead, there was silence, a silence that grew louder with each passing hour. Reporters filled screens with endless discussions, and children in schools painted pictures of giant ships protecting their world. The dreadnoughts were becoming more than machines. They were symbols. One evening, as the sun set behind the mountains, Myra spoke to her advisors once more. "This moment is a test. The council is used to obedience. They do not understand strength that does not shout. Let the dreadnoughts speak for us. Let them see that we will not be moved." Her words spread across the networks, reaching every home and every gathering. People repeated them quietly, feeling their meaning. Humanity was standing not with weapons raised, but with dignity unshaken. Up in orbit, the council finally broke the silence. A message rang out across both fleets. "You resist when others do not. You display power when none should. The council cannot allow this to continue. Yet you remain still. Explain yourselves." Myra answered with calm. "We do not resist to insult you. We resist because choice is the breath of our people. The dreadnoughts are not a challenge, but a reminder. We will not harm unless forced, but we will not surrender what makes us human." The reply came slower this time, as though the council was thinking carefully. Their fleets did not advance. Their scouts did not threaten. The balance remained. In homes across Earth, families gathered around screens at night, watching the great ships drift in silence. Children asked their parents why nothing was happening. The parents smiled and said that sometimes, strength was not about moving, but about standing still. For days more, the fleets held their ground. The tension should have broken the people of Earth, but instead it shaped them. Neighbors shared food, strangers helped one another, and communities grew closer. Across the world, a sense of unity deepened. Humanity was no longer divided by old lines. They were one people, waiting together beneath the guardians of their sky. Arun kept his telescope pointed toward the dreadnoughts, watching every flicker of light across their hulls. He marveled at their design, built not for conquest but for endurance. "They are like mountains in the sky," he whispered. "Immovable, unshaken." That is the language the council understands now. In the council fleet, commanders debated endlessly. They had the numbers, the experience, the advantage of centuries. Yet the human refusal unsettled them more than open defiance ever could. These were not reckless creatures. They were calm, deliberate, and united. Such qualities were rare even among older civilizations. At last, one of the council envoys spoke privately to their leaders. "Perhaps we have misjudged this species. They do not behave as others do. They do not crumble under weight. They stand. To break them would cost more than to respect them." This thought began to spread within the fleet, just as hope spread across Earth. As the 5th week of silence ended, the stars above shone brighter than ever. The dreadnoughts and the council fleet remained in their places, but something was changing. It was not the movement of ships or the flashing of weapons. It was the slow turning of respect. For the first time, the council was not only looking at humans. They were seeing them. And humanity, standing still beneath its guardians, was teaching the galaxy a lesson it had never expected. Strength was not only in size or speed. Sometimes, the greatest strength was simply the courage to remain unbroken. The standoff stretched into its 6th week. By now, the sight of the two fleets had become part of daily life on Earth. Children pointed at the night sky with excitement, and artists painted the dreadnoughts as guardians of humanity. The longer they remained still, the more their presence turned into a symbol of calm strength. But within the Galactic Council fleet, the mood was different. Commanders held endless meetings, their voices heavy with doubt. The Council had expected Earth to bend quickly. Every other young race had obeyed. Yet here was a world that refused, not with anger, not with violence, but with dignity that could not be shaken. One envoy, known among the Council for wisdom more than power, stepped forward. His name was Loren. Unlike the others, he did not speak of punishment or threats. Instead, he studied the humans carefully. He listened to Myra's speeches, he watched the way the dreadnoughts never moved unless needed, and he read the signs of unity across Earth. At last, Loren sent a message. It was not a command. It was a request. Representative Myra, his voice echoed gently across the channels, I ask to speak with you, not as an envoy of the Council, but as a seeker of understanding. May we meet? The request surprised many on Earth, yet Myra agreed. A small hall was prepared, not grand, not ceremonial, but simple and open. When Loren arrived, his form shimmered softly in the light, his steps measured and calm. He did not tower over the humans. Instead, he bowed his head slightly, a gesture that carried meaning across all species. Myra welcomed him. Around them, advisors and translators sat quietly, but the conversation was clear. You refused what others have always accepted, Loren began. You faced the weight of the Council and did not break. Tell me, why? Why did you not do as the rest? Myra's voice was steady. Because to us, freedom is not something to trade. We value friendship, we value learning, but only when it comes with choice. If we had obeyed without question, we would no longer be human. Loren studied her words with care. He had seen many worlds fall into obedience without hesitation. Yet this answer was different. It was not pride for power's sake. It was a deeper strength, rooted in identity. You built those great ships, he said softly. The dreadnoughts. Were they meant to fight us? Myra shook her head. No. They were meant to remind us that we are never helpless. They were meant to protect, not to conquer. They exist so that when a day like this arrived, we could stand firm without fear. For a long moment, Loren remained silent. He looked at Myra, then at Arun, who stood nearby, and then at the human advisors. None of them spoke with threats or arrogance. They spoke with clarity. At last, Loren straightened. Perhaps the Council has misjudged you. We believed you were like others, fragile and eager for protection. But you are not the same. You seek respect, not dominance. That is rare. He paused, then added, I will speak for you within the Council. The meeting ended with quiet dignity. As Loren's ship returned to the fleet, Myra felt a small but certain shift in the air. Arun turned to her and said, he listened. Truly listened. Perhaps this is the first crack in their wall. Word of the meeting spread quickly across Earth. People cheered not for battle, but for the possibility of recognition. The idea that the Council might see them as equals gave hope even stronger than the sight of the dreadnoughts. In the Council fleet, debates grew louder. Some envoys insisted that Earth must still be punished, that to allow refusal would weaken the Council's authority. But others, led by Loren, argued that respect could achieve more than fear. Look at them, Loren said firmly. They did not break under silence. They did not panic under threat. They remained united. To force them would not only be costly, it would be foolish. Gradually, the balance of opinion shifted. For the first time in the history of the Council, the refusal of a young species was being considered not as rebellion, but as strength. On Earth, Myra spoke again to her people. Standing before cameras, her voice calm, she said, "The Council has begun to listen. This is not yet victory, but it is progress. We do not seek to be feared. We seek only to be respected as equals." Her words carried across the world. People in crowded cities and quiet villages nodded with pride. They knew the struggle was not over, but they also knew something important had already been achieved. Above them, the Dreadnoughts continued to shine against the stars. They had not fired a single shot, yet they had changed the course of history. They were proof that humanity's greatest strength was not aggression, but the courage to hold steady until respect was earned. And in the Council's great records, a note was already being written. It was the first time such words had ever appeared: humans refused, and they were heard. The Council fleet no longer hovered with sharp menace. Their lines were still neat, their ships still gleaming, but the weight of threat had lessened. Something had shifted. For weeks, they had tested Earth with silence, with scouts, and with warnings, yet the humans had not bowed. Now, after Lauren's visit and Myra's words, the Council began to see them differently. In homes across Earth, families still watched the sky each night. Farmers paused from their work to look at the shining dreadnoughts above. Children traced their shapes in notebooks, calling them guardians. The waiting was not easy, but the fear that once held the people was now replaced with a calm pride. Humanity had shown it could stand firm. Inside the Council fleet, long debates continued. Some envoys spoke with anger, insisting Earth must be forced to obey. But others, led by Lauren, argued with patience. This is not weakness, he told them. This is strength in another form. We cannot break them without losing respect ourselves. Better to stand beside them than above them. At last, a decision was reached. The Council would no longer demand. Instead, they would offer. It was the first time such a choice had ever been made for a young species. A message was sent to Earth. The voice that filled the airwaves was calm, no longer sharp with authority. Humans of Earth, the Council has considered your words. You have refused what others have accepted, yet you have done so with dignity. We now extend not a demand, but an invitation. Join the Council as equals, not as servants. Share knowledge, share peace, and share the stars. The message spread across the planet within minutes. Screens lit up in cities, radios carried the voice to villages, and satellites transmitted it to remote islands. Everywhere, people listened, their hearts filled with something new. Hope had always been present, but now it was joined by recognition. In the great hall of the capital, Myra stood with Arun and the other leaders. They looked at one another, knowing the weight of this moment. Humanity had been offered not submission, but partnership. Myra spoke clearly for all to hear. We accept friendship. We accept respect. We will walk among the stars not as subjects, but as partners. Let the Dreadnoughts stand not for war, but for peace, as a reminder that freedom is never to be taken. Her words were broadcast to the fleet, and across Earth cheers rose like waves. Bells rang in old towns, music filled busy streets, and people embraced one another with joy. The world had faced a test greater than any before, and it had endured without breaking. In orbit, the Council ships shifted their formations. This time, it was not a wall of intimidation. It was a gesture of welcome, a slow turning of their vessels in salute to the Dreadnoughts. For the first time, fleets from two very different worlds faced one another not as rivals, but as allies. Arun stood at the balcony of the station, watching the sky. "Do you see it, Myra?" he asked softly. The Council came expecting obedience, and now they leave giving respect. It is not only our future that has changed. Perhaps the galaxy itself will change because of this. Myra nodded. Let them remember that humanity did not rise by conquest. We rose by standing tall. That is our gift to the stars. In the following days, preparations began for the first human representatives to travel beyond Earth. The Dreadnoughts would remain as guardians, but small ships would carry ambassadors, scientists, and explorers to the Council's worlds. Children dreamed of walking under alien skies, and teachers reminded them that dignity had opened the way. The story of Earth's refusal spread quickly through the galactic network. Other young races heard it and wondered. Perhaps they, too, could stand tall. Perhaps the Council would learn to treat all new voices with greater care. Humanity had not only defended itself. It had lit a path for others. As the sun rose one morning, Myra looked out at the horizon. The fields were golden, the rivers bright, and the sky stretched endlessly above. The dreadnoughts still floated silently, their shadows long and steady. She smiled, for she knew their presence would always remind humanity of this truth: respect is earned not by power alone, but by courage and dignity. That evening, Arun wrote the final words of his journal, meant for future generations. We were asked to kneel, and we refused. We were told to surrender, and we stood still. Now the stars are open to us. Let those who come after remember this moment, for it was the day humanity found its place among the stars. The night sky above Earth glittered with countless lights. Some belonged to the Council, some to the Dreadnoughts, and countless more to distant worlds waiting to be explored. For the first time, humanity looked upward not with fear, but with belonging. Earth was no longer alone. And humanity, unbroken and respected, had taken its first step into the greater order of the galaxy not as servants, but as equals.